Here we go. We're live. Welcome to 101 on Arsenal. We've got Arsenal versus Spurs preview, and I welcome Andy. Andy, how are you doing? Good to see you all looking well. I think Andy's frozen up on me for a bit there. Andy, can you hear me? Yeah, I think Andy's just struggling with a few bit of problems there. Let's already. We're going to go through, guys, team sheet. We're going to go through Spurs form. We're going to go through Arsenal, and then we'll do our predictions and what probably would be the starting 11. And Cam is already saying, have a sneaky feeling Arteta will start Zinchenko in this one, and everyone would lose their. You know what? You first of all got to look at what you've got to be up against in regards to Spurs, and the guy that I'm most concerned about is Sarr. Now, is Sarr top level? Yeah, I reckon he's a good player, but he's not a great player. I mean, you've got the Saka, the Salahs. You're in that kind of mold in terms of the quality of wingers that are in the Premier League. But I think if you look at Sarr, he's not quite at the level as someone like Kudos from West Ham. Like those type of players, if I thought about it and do I really want to face them, the answer would probably be no. So I think for me, that would be what I would be looking at. That would be my biggest concern about Zinchenko. And quite frankly, I wouldn't worry too much about Sarr. Look, Sarr's a good player. He's done really well for them at Spurs, but he's not groundbreaking. And actually, while I talk about that, let's just have a look. Sarr, Spurs. Yeah, let me just see if I could look this up. Yeah, because I don't think he's in that category. I really don't. So Papa Sarr, here we go. I'm just having a look at him on who scored. So look, he's played in 28 games. He scored 3 goals and got 3 assists. So he's not the type of person that I would be overly concerned with. Andy's joined us back again. Sorry, Andy, I was just keeping everyone company while you'd sort of frozen up on me there for a while. Can you hear me?
Sorry, guys. My phone switched itself off, and I had to restart. Sorry.
No problem, mate. No problem. I was just talking about how much I like Sarr, but is he in that upper echelon position where I would say a kudos for West Ham is? Not at the moment, but I think he'll get there. He's had 28 games for Tottenham this year, 3 goals, 3 assists. I think he's a player who is growing into his own and could really do well for them. So I wouldn't think Zinchenko would struggle against somebody, but I just wouldn't start Zinchenko. I just wouldn't do it. Tomiyasu would be my forte for left back. So let's get back on topic. We're just diving into the chat room there while Andy was away. So Andy, how are you? You was just about to tell me how everything was going. Congratulations on your all-time Barnet scoring trophy as well. That is really good to see that, mate.
No, it's very kind of you. Thanks, mate. I've not played there for 10 years, but they've been doing some delving into the archives, and they decided that I was the top scorer of all time. So that was quite nice to receive that trophy. I enjoyed that.
I remember when I was, oh God, in the 4th year of high school. So what would I have been? I probably would have been about 14 or 15 years old. And I broke the Brent record for 100-meter hurdles at Vale Farm. And I went back there about probably, I think, when I was about 35. So it must have been about 20 years after I left school. And the record was still there. It was like, my name was still there in terms of 4th-year boys for the school record for Brent. So I was really proud of that. I don't know whether it's still there now because that would have been 20 odd years ago in itself. So don't think the record would have stood that long. But I was just really proud that the record was there in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, records are there to be broken, aren't they? I mean, I broke it one day, and someone one day will break mine. But it's nice to have it for a period of time all the same.
Yeah, and I was really proud of it because I thought at that age, like some boys couldn't even run 100 meters in sub 13 seconds. And that's what I did with hurdles. So could you imagine running a flat 100 meters and I had to do that sub 13 seconds with hurdles? So the time was quite impressive that I said. But yeah, good on you, mate. That's a lot of goals you scored as well, man. You're racking up them goals every Sunday. It must have been pretty good for you. So let's
Yeah, I
get
mean,
back on
obviously, it's not
topic.
the level that I would have liked to have achieved these things at, but at the end of the day, you settle for what you settle for, and you can only do the best in the league you're playing in. So that's the way it goes.
Exactly. So let's talk about this game. We're probably only going to be here for about 20 minutes, so let's get right into it. First of all, let's talk about you and Spurs. Your thoughts for the season so far. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I've always said to you in the chat that we have that Spurs are like Forrest Gump. You just don't know which Spurs are going to turn up each week. You don't. It's like them flavor of the chocolate. So you just pick a chocolate out. You don't know what flavor you're going to get.
Well, let's put Spurs' performance this season into context with what we had for the previous 3 years with Mourinho and Conte. I can tell you now, there isn't a Spurs fan out there that isn't happier now than they were watching Mourinho and Conte football. Apart from that, obviously, we had that brief spell at the back end of 2 seasons ago when we were smashing everyone for 4 or 5. We beat you 3-0 to nick the Champions League place off you 2 seasons ago. But then the following season was just hideous under Conte. I think when he lost his fitness coach with Ventroni passed away in the October, and from that moment, Spurs' form and Conte's demeanour just like nosedived. And so then we had this sort of ridiculous period where Stellini came in and Mason came in, and it was just the whole thing was just a shambles for about 6 months.
And it wasn't really the results; it was the style of football. I think that was
it was everything. The style of football was boring to watch, even when we were winning, because we won a fair few games. But even when we were winning, it was just tedious. It was just not entertaining to watch, not exciting for the fans. Postecoglou came in. We lost Harry Kane on the eve of the season. The greatest striker in our history, and some might say in Premier League history. He's gone on to amazing things at Munich. Obviously knocked you out last week of the Champions League. There's kind of everyone at the beginning of the season. I don't think I heard people tipping Spurs for relegation at the beginning of the season. I don't think anyone seriously thought that was going to happen, but a lot of people thought we were only going to be mid-table this season while Postecoglou came in. He's done well in lesser leagues without trying to be disrespectful to those leagues. He did exceptionally well in Japan and Australia and Scotland, but nobody was sure how he would perform in the Premier League. And he's done an exceptional job. We were top after 10 games. And I said to you in the chat earlier on that basically that's 20 minutes of madness against Chelsea where, we had Romero sent off, Udogie sent off, Maddison and Van der Ven went down with long-term injuries. And all of a season, our season just sort of collapsed in the middle of the season. We went from 1st to 5th in the space of about 6 weeks. And we've basically just stayed there. We've been fighting with Villa backwards and forwards. Sometimes we got in the 4th. Most of the time they've been in 4th. And now it looks like probably that they'll get over the line and we might end up with Europa League next season. But we're still there. If we beat you tomorrow, hopefully Chelsea could do us a favour. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one after the tonking they took at your place earlier in the week. But, if Chelsea could do us a favour tonight and we beat you tomorrow, but at the end of the day, we've got to take care of our own business rather than rely on other teams. If we win all 6 games, we'll get 4th place. It's as simple as that. But the reality of us beating Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, City in quick succession, I would think it's probably unlikely. But it can happen.
Yeah, and I think there's some pluses and minuses. I think I said to you the other day in terms of that there's good and bad with Spurs. You guys have done really well in terms of scoring goals at home. But then on the flip side of that, you're letting in goals at home as well. You're letting in a bunch of goals at home. And as we know, Arsenal have kept 6 clean sheets in a row on the road. So it's going to be a real, can Arsenal sort of stop Spurs from scoring, and can Spurs actually keep a clean sheet at home? That's going to be one of the main questions there. And obviously you're playing for 2 things. You're playing to get in that top 4, and you're playing to stop Arsenal from winning the league.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in worrying about yourself. I think a lot of Spurs fans get obsessed with Arsenal and all the rest of it. And I'm not saying I don't like a bit of banter with with Arsenal. I do. But the reality is we need to concentrate on making ourselves better. And I think we have been slowly doing that. But we've still got a way to go to catch the top three.
Yeah.
Now, I think Liverpool are going to go through a period now of change and rebuilding and that sort of thing. Maybe there'll be an opportunity next season. You know, if City start getting, you know, things that charges leveled against them at some point next season, you know, it might affect them possibly in a way. Guardiola might start getting the hump. I'm not sure Guardiola's going to stay after the end of next season. I think he'll stay next season. And I think he's already looking at maybe going at the end of next season. But we'll wait and see what happens. But I think there's a good chance that he might go back to Barcelona. I know there's talk of either Guardiola or Arteta going to Barcelona at the end of next season. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, because if there's one thing, these Spanish coaches, I talked about Xavi, I talked about Alonso, Emery, Arteta. We're seeing a wave, and Guardiola, obviously, we're seeing a wave of Spanish coaches, managers just dominating football now.
It's come out of that great period of sort of a decade where Spain were the best team in the world. They won the World Cup, they won the European Championships,
that's right.
and most of those players have now gone into coaching and management, and they've been coached by the best. They've all been coached by Benitez, Mourinho, Guardiola in the later stages. These guys have been coached by Ancelotti, another top coach. These guys have been coached by the best, and they're now taking that into their own careers and becoming top coaches themselves and adding their own, you know, modern influences on the game into their coaching styles. I think the Spanish coaches look good. I mean, you look at someone like Andoni Iraola. I've said to you in the chat, what he's done with Bournemouth this season, to have Bournemouth in 10th, almost everyone you spoke to thought Bournemouth were relegation candidates this season, along with the bottom three. They said them and Bournemouth, they were in a mess and they started badly. And what he's turned them round from the first 6 games of the season, and to have them now in 10th place, that's incredible what he has done with limited resources on the South Coast. I mean, he's done a great job there at Iraola. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the Spanish coaches. You know, they're very strong. They've been raised on great football, possession-based football. You know, they've done a great job. You know my feelings on Arteta. I believe Arteta is missing something at the very top level, but we'll wait and see. If he goes and wins the last 4 games of the season and City somehow drop something somewhere, then, you know, okay, I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong about Arteta. But I still feel that he's not quite elite yet.
Yeah,
maybe he'll become that way. But we'll see.
And a lot of people have always asked me, why have I always been Arteta in on day one? And that's simply because,
well, you know him. I get that.
But I mean, but I've seen the signs. It's really about one word, and that's philosophy. If you come in and you're doing the right things and setting the right standards from day one, that's it. Does that make sense, Andy? Like the fight is already won, because no matter what you do in terms of the way you work, your expectations, and how you set your team up to, you know, every year incrementally improve, then you, as far as I'm concerned, like, you're going to be an elite team. And I think when we lost to Villa and the whole fan base was melting down, I stood back and I said, you know, I could start to see some guys being a little bit gassed. And on top of that, what was happening last year was we didn't have the squad. This year we got a better squad, but it's not as good as City squad. So there's the thing and I think me and Tony both agreed with this. I said, look, we have a good squad, guys, but we don't have an elite squad, to the point where managers simply can't trust them coming in and doing it. But
your season boiled down to 1 week. And when the pressure was really, really on against Bayern Munich at home, I know you got a 2-2 draw, but that was really less than what you could have got that day. Bayern Munich were there for the take. Munich were there for the taking. If you'd have beaten them at home, you'd have won that game, I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree.
It was only because you needed something in Munich that caused you a problem. I think if you'd have won at home, I think you could comfortably have gone and got a draw over there.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
that home defeat to Villa in the league and the home draw with Bayern Munich in the Champions League, that 7 days of football, 5 days of football, whatever it was, that pretty much cost you everything you were going for. And that's what I think. A similar thing happened last year where you just had a week. I mean, I know Saliba was the big issue last season, when you lost Saliba at the end of the season. But
it was the Ramsdale wife's miscarriage, the party injury, the Saliba injury, and what happened in that stretch? Remember, we drawed 3 games, then we lost at City, so it was a stretch of 4 games that we didn't really recover. I think the key in the last 2 matches is that we've actually recovered from the little slip that we've had.
Yeah, you have recovered. The problem is the ball is now in City's court.
Yeah.
If City win out, they've won the league. It's as simple as that. I'm not saying they will, but I think that when the pressure has been on for you in the last 2 seasons, you've been top with 7 games to go in both of the last 2 seasons. You've been top, and you didn't win the league last year. And this season, you've gone out of the Champions League and possibly won't win the league this year. You still could. I don't think you will, but you could.
Tony's making some good points below in the chat room. Go on, mate.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah. I mean, that's possibly true. I mean, the 2 teams in Spain, and along with Atletico, with Simeone made Atletico a challenger for a period of a few years.
Well, he won the title there. Yeah, he won the title.
I mean, and he got to Champions League final and all that kind of stuff. He did a fantastic job with. Oh, he's still there, Atletico. But I just think that there's something different in Pep's makeup that doesn't exist in Arteta's makeup, in my opinion. And that's a personal opinion of Klopp as well. I think Klopp's done brilliantly, but twice failed by a point to beat City by 1 point. I mean, that could have been.
They've ever recovered from that. I don't think.
Well, they could have had 3 titles each. Instead, it was 5 to City and 1 to Liverpool. So it's unfortunate on Klopp, and I think Klopp's done a sensational job. He's won every trophy there is to win. Won the league, the Champions League, the World Club Championship, the FA Cups, League Cups. You've got to say Klopp has done a fantastic job with Liverpool. Remember, Liverpool hadn't won the league for 30 years.
Exactly.
Klopp's done an incredible job. And if it was anyone other than Pep, Klopp would have had 3 or 4 titles himself. Anyone other than Pep. So you've got to give credit to these people. And I'm not saying I disrespect Arteta. I think he's done a good job. What I say to you constantly is first 2 or 3 years, you've got to give him time to build what he wants. But he's had £750 million spend now, and he's in his 5th season. To me, he has to deliver this season, and I think he's going to fall short again. And to me, I'm thinking Arsenal should be looking around. But then some might say Ferguson was at United 6 or 7 years before he eventually won the league. So you might say we're going to give it Arteta another year or 2. I'm sure he'll get it.
And the thing is, and my feelings on that. I don't buy. For me, he's only been there 4 years, and for me, he's put a roadmap out. He sat down with the board and said, we need to scratch all this, what the Premier League's doing, bring a manager in, ask him to win something for you like we did with Emery. And when he doesn't do it, sack him. Arteta said, no, we're not doing that. And it's not just Arteta, it's the Edu show as well. So they both sat down and they said, this is the roadmap. In year 1, we're going to get rid of our dead players. In year 2, when the dead wood's gone, we'll bring in a crop of young players and build a foundation from there. In year 3, we're going to add the veterans, the Zinchenko's, the Jesus, the guys that we've depended on who know how to win. And then by that time, in year 3, we should be in the Champions League. So everything that they kind of wrote.
But ask me, have Zinchenko and Jesus delivered, and Jorginho, have they delivered what you wanted?
I think the answer is twofold. Number one, we've got in the Champions League with their help. So from that standpoint, yes. But I think the team's outgrown them now. And quite frankly, both of those players should not be in the first 11. That's just my
opinion. Do you really think City would have let them go to you if they thought that they could make a material difference to your ability to win the league? I don't think they would have done.
Well, it wasn't really. I mean, it's not for me to say. It's for Pep to say. And Pep was very clear about him wanting them to stay. So, it's not really a thing for me to say whether they would have stayed or not. It was working with Jesus in City, and the only reason why he left there and told Pep that he wanted to go was because he wanted to play as a striker. But as I said over the last month on my channel, the striker experiment with Jesus is over. It's done. He is not a number 9, probably never will be a number 9. He made his career predicated on the left-hand side and the right as a winger, and that's where he should play.
I feel for Jesus, because when I watch Jesus, he often makes a tremendous impact in games for you. He's a wonderful player, but he's always been lacking. I think he's better than Werner, but in the same way, his composure in front of goal, he doesn't score enough goals to be a number 9. It just doesn't happen. I mean, Werner at Spurs this season does everything right until the final delivery, and then something is missing in his composure to deliver either the right ball or to put the ball in the back of the net. When he's, the Newcastle game, we got stuffed 4-0 and they fully deserved it. I'm not saying otherwise. We could have been 2-0 up in that game with chances for Werner. If he puts them away, it's a whole different ball game. But, these are the things. And this is where what Postecoglou's got to do now is he's got to decide, and it's his choice to decide. He's the man. But he's got to decide who are the ones that can take us to the next level and who are the ones that just aren't ever going to get there. And, it'll be interesting to see what we bring in. I think we've got a big summer ahead of us. I think the people we're being linked with are big players, Gallagher, Eze, Tony, and top class defenders and stuff like that. You bring in 3 or 4 of those kind of players, we are going to have a very deep and good squad.
Yeah, and I agree.
Then it will be a different cat of fish. But if Levy reverts to type and suddenly we're offering 5 million and a packet of chocolate buttons for somebody, then we won't get what we want. But
and I'm glad you said that, because we've seen this before when Pooch got to the Champions League final. Him and
that was different because the club was paying for £1 billion stadium at that point, and basically Levy said,
"No, but I'm just talking about the ethics. The ethics was the fans turned around, Pooch turned around and said, right, this is what I can do if you back me," and then we know what happened.
The club should have found the money, but the problem is the club had invested in a £500 million stadium, which ended up being £1 billion stadium, and that's a big deficit to fill. Basically Levy said he couldn't afford to spend. But now we're in a great financial position. We're in the top 10 in Europe. Financially, we're raking cash in from the events at the stadium, like the Beyonce concerts and Guns N' Roses and all these other people we've had there, boxing events we've had there, NFL. He's the Formula One go-karting thing. He's got a lot of things going on at that club, and obviously for a football fan, I now want to see the benefits of that income invested in the football team.
So I just want to
it's in Levy's court to whoever he delivers.
So I just want to talk about Arsenal and where we are at the moment. Then we'll go into Spurs injuries and who do you think is going to make the game. As far as Arsenal, for me, as I said to you before, the Wolves and Chelsea result was very different, because last season when we capitulated, it all fell apart. We even lost 1-0 against Nottingham Forest. There was just nothing in the tank after last season when everything went capitulated, and Rob Holding was our main guy to sort of hold everything up, which he just quite frankly couldn't do. This season, it's really, really healthy to say where the squad is and where the mindset and the mentality is. Everyone keeps asking over the last few days, natural striking options. You need a striker. But last season, we broke our franchise record with 88 goals. No striker this season, although we started Havertz for 7 games as a number 9. And he's got 12 goals for us this season. And we're on course to beat our scoring record again. And it's really weird. Like back-to-back years, this guy, most inexperienced manager in the league, has scored more goals than any other Arsenal team in our history. It's crazy. So I think in regards to the striking option, I asked myself this question: what would have happened if Havertz started at the number 9 position for the whole season? He's durable.
I still don't think Havertz is a 9. He can do the position.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's a natural number 9. I think he's much better in the sort of 10, 8, 10 role. I think he's better at that position. I'm
Yeah.
not
I
saying he
like him as a
can't
number
be
9.
effective.
Yeah.
I think he's better when he plays in a slightly deeper role. But he is. I said to you, he came from Leverkusen. My past links with them,
Yeah.
and so I've said both Havertz and Son from Spurs both came from Leverkusen, and I said that they would both be successful, and they have been.
Yeah.
So, but I still think if Arsenal had bought a number 9 last summer, you would have walked the title this year. If you'd had a proper number 9 this season, you would have walked the title. Irrespective of the goals I think is a bit distorted because if you look, everybody's scoring more goals than they used to. Spurs,
I think we've
Spurs
got
are.
10. I think we're the only team in the league that have got more than 5 players with double-digit goals in their team.
Newcastle Newcastle 7th. They've got 74 or something goals. They've hit another 5 this afternoon. United have drawn home with Burnley again today. They're stuttering like anything. It just Ten Hag looks like a beaten man to me. So it's a very strange. Villa have scored an immense amount of goals. I mean, Emery's done an incredible job at Villa this season. I know you don't like to admit it, being an ex-Arsenal manager and that, but I still think Arsenal are a bit quick to pull the trigger on Emery.
I'm one of those guys that doesn't think he's top level because, and you mentioned Diego Simeone won title there, and he never got anywhere near that. He barely have got his teams into the Champions League.
He didn't have the same level in his clubs at Seville. Was it Seville and Villarreal or whatever it was? He didn't have the same level of income that those clubs have to invest in top class players. He is doing a much better job with Villa than I think anyone really envisioned at the beginning of the season. He's done a fantastic job, and if he gets 4th place, then I'll hold my hand up. I think he should. He gets a lot of criticism. Please convert any failure of the fact of the greatest team built on it. Yeah, they are the greatest team in Premier League history. I completely agree with you.
It's crazy the fact that no team, like we hear Bayern Munich won 11 titles in a row, Real Madrid, X amount of titles, 6 titles in a row, Celtic in Scotland, but our league is so competitive that no one's ever done 4, and so this season is really, we're at a turning point. I think
City, if they get over the line, if they win their last 5 and win the league, then you've got to hold your hand up. But of course, everything with City now is coming with the caveat about these 115 FFP charges they've got hanging over their head. That's why I haven't put my hands up and said, "Well done, City." Yeah, but the point is, I do put my hand up and say, "Well done, Pep," and "Well done, City," because Pep's job is to build a football team. It's not his business as to how the club runs the financial side of the affairs. That's not his responsibility. His job is to put a team on the pitch that plays and is brilliant. And what Pep has done with that football team is brilliant. The De Bruyne's, your Haalands, your Bernardo Silvas, Diaz, all these great players that they've got there. Kyle Walker, Foden. I mean, Foden's been sensational this season. Yeah. So he's done his job. He's put a brilliant team on the pitch, and when the pressure's been on, they've delivered time after time. They win 15, 16 games on the belt, and they win the titles. That's what they do.
Yeah, I don't agree with that because obviously and yes, you're right about Pep, but then he's been put in an unfortunate situation where he's been able to take advantage of the things that they did with the money and the fudging when they had their emails uncovered about them fudging the numbers on FFP, and that went to court, and then they got their lawyers in to try and pay their way out of that.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. He's had the benefit of, like he did at Barcelona, he's had the benefit of having the best players at his disposal. Barcelona, Messi, Xavi, Iniesta.
I remember the
and
year he
here
took
he's got De
over.
Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, Rodri, and all these. He's
Yeah.
got these players, but he can only do the job that he's asked to do, which is to build a football team and make it successful. And
And
Pep's
that's
done
very
that.
easy to do when you have got
Okay,
the
but look at
capital to do it.
Arteta though. Arteta has spent £750 million. Arsenal's net spend in the last 3 or 4 years is greater than Manchester City's.
Yes, but
That is a fact. That is a
yeah,
fact.
yes, but that's not important in the fact that Man City is not there to spend that money because they spent it all before. Does that make sense?
But what Man City have done is they've sold a lot of players for big
yes,
money, which has meant that
because
their
they
net
bought them.
spend has come down.
Yeah, they bought them all before Arteta even got there. So that's why you see them selling players like Jesus, Shinchenko, Mason Mount. I mean, we could name a ton of players.
I'm not sure Mason Mount came from City.
No, not Mason Mount, Cole Palmer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perez, all these players, they are all gone and they've all generated money in. But that's because, 4, 5, 6 years ago, all the investments was done there, huge amounts. If you have look at him, 1.7 billion he spent as a manager, and no manager has been afforded that. In regards to Arsenal, yeah, they're one of the top spenders now, but then they've had to be in order to compete. And that's something that when the plan came in with Josh Kroenke, when he took over, he said, this ain't working. We don't have the right investment. We don't have the right men at the top making decisions. Too much cooks in the kitchen. So then when he came in, that was all done. And right now we're being run correctly. And I think this is something I talked to you a couple of years ago about Daniel Levy and what's been happening there at the top level. And the decisions are going to have to be sort of, again, I use the word roadmap. You have to have a plan going forward. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And it seems
if you talk to Daniel Levy, he did have a roadmap, and everyone was trying to deviate him from his roadmap. He was like, we have to build a stadium because that long term, that's what's going to generate the income in order for us to compete at the top level. Mm-hmm. And that was always, and unfortunately, we built the stadium and the following year, COVID hit. So all the income that was supposed to be generated got put back a year or two because of COVID. Okay, in the last 2 years, the money is starting to come through, and you're now starting to see Levy invest more in the footballing side of things. And the promise is supposedly that there is a decent war chest for Postecoglou to spend this summer. Now, the proof will be in the pudding. Does it actually get spent, and does it get spent on the right players? That's going to come down to Postecoglou and the recruitment team. If they get the decisions right. I did mention
to you, he's only had 2 transfer windows, and one of them he was pretty capped on.
Well, one of them he was capped the first one, and he lost Kane right at the end of it. Yeah, so I mean, he's only really had one transfer window. We brought in, we got late in the window. We got in Brennan Johnson at the end of the summer, and then he obviously got in. There's not a lot you can do in January, but you bring in what you can. But we've also got a lot of very, very good. I don't know if you noticed, but our under-21s won the Premier League 2.
Yeah, I saw them play in Boreham Wood. I saw them play against Arsenal in Boreham Wood.
So, I mean, they're good. We've got a lot of very, very good youngsters at our football club. Lots of people that people are talking about. We've got a lot of very good players out on loan. Ashley Phillips out on loan. Alfie Devine is out on loan. Mikey Moore is coming through the ranks, and he's only 16, but everybody's talking about him. We've got a lot of Will Lankshire's banging in goals left, right, and centre for the under 18s and under 21s. We've got a lot of very good young players coming through, along with a very good squad, which I think still needs to be strengthened further. I expect us to have a real go next season.
It's funny Tony mentioned that when we was going to do a podcast last night, Tony, we was going to address the new offside VAR rules, the new FFP, but we'll have to do that when we do another Friday night so we can have everybody's input on that. But that's definitely very important in terms of the way things are going. We need to discuss these new rules because I don't think it'll work, but we'll see what happens when we get around to that. Let's talk about the injuries to the team. For Arsenal, I don't think they're unlikely to make any changes injuries-wise. I think this
is the first time. Do you think Partey's going to play?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think this is the first time.
I heard a rumour that Partey wasn't going to play.
I think he'll play. But as I said...
he makes a big difference to you.
Huge. He was our best player last year. But I think this is the first time, as I said, in 10 years that the team has got to this stage of the season with hardly any injuries at all. Even Jurriën Timber played last week in the under-21. So we don't really have any injuries at the moment. As for Spurs, Andy, I think Destiny Inogi's, I think he underwent season-ending surgery, didn't he?
Yeah, he's out for the season. We won't see him again probably until late pre-season. He'll miss the pre-season tour, I think.
What about Ben Davis?
Well, Ben Davis might come in. There's talk by some that he might move Van der Ven to left back and bring in Dragusin to play with Romero in the middle. I'm not sure he will do that because I think that risks breaking up a good partnership in Romero and Van der Ven. But I would expect Ben Davis to play. But Van der Ven would have the pace to. Van der Ven would have the pace to cope with Saka, which I'm not sure Davis does. But Davis has got his experience, so that could go either way. Richarlison is available.
Yep.
Richarlison apparently is available. Whether he'll throw him in when he's been out for a month, I don't know. But personally, I would play Richarlison, and I would play Richarlison down the middle, and I'd move Son back out to the left because I think Son is so much more dangerous when he comes off the left than he does when he plays centrally.
Yeah, I know he can against Ben White. I do enjoy those. Fraser Foster, Mana Solomon, and Ryan Sessegnon. What's going on with those three?
Well, they've been out for quite some time. Fraser Foster got an arm injury. Mana Solomon's been out, I think, since November. I mean, he had a really bad one. And Sessegnon, I mean, God, how many times has he played since we bought him? It's been a real shame because he had lots of promise, but he's just never gone on. He's just had injury after injury after injury. I don't think we'll see any of them again this season.
Bro, you when Thomas Partey came on last week, that was only his 5th start of the season. It's unbelievable. Talk me through, what do you think your potential starting 11 is going to be? Is it going to be anywhere near here, or what changes would you make?
I imagine Basuma will play. I think Basuma will play ahead of either Bentancur or Stark. Personally, I think he'll play Basuma instead of Bentancur. I like Bentancur, but against Arsenal, we're going to need all the work rate and effort we can get in there. So I think he'd be tempted to play Basuma and Sarr and Maddison. I think we'll see Basuma instead of Bentancur, but I might be wrong. Johnson, yes. Son, yes. I would have Richarlison instead of Werner, but and I'd play Son in Werner's position and Richarlison down the middle. That's what I would do.
It really depends on how much minutes you think you can get out of Richarlison.
Well, that's the point. I mean, if Richarlison is not 100% and he hasn't played for a month, you might leave him on the bench and try and bring him on for the last half an hour. That's why I took his name out.
Yeah,
I think there's every chance that will be the team. I think he's more likely to go, watching what Postecoglou's done this season. In big games, Basuma usually starts because he needs his energy and work rate. So I imagine Basuma will be in the team for either Bentancur or Sarr, one of the two. And I would guess Bentancur instead of Bentancur. But yeah, and again, whether he decides to go with Dragusin instead of Davis, again, I don't know. Or whether he chooses to play Emerson Royal instead of, and Royal has played left back before as well.
I remember his game against Arsenal. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens.
So here's my predicted 11 against Spurs. Quite frankly, I don't think they're going to change anything. I reckon it's going to be the same team against Chelsea.
If Partey is fit, why would you change it? You smashed Chelsea 5-0. Why would you change if he's fit? The only question is whether Partey can do 2 games in a week. That's that.
And that's right. Remember, we took him off quite early to protect him for the Spurs game. I think this is our best 11, and it's the best 11 that I would have chose. All the way going through the back four. I don't think Zinchenko is going to start. That is, for me, in my opinion, the best midfield in the Premier League. Partey, Rice, and Odegaard.
In previous years, I was a big fan of Martinelli. What's happened to him this season? Because he doesn't seem to have had anywhere near the same impact as he had last season.
So, I mean, there's two things there. The first thing, obviously, is the injuries. He hasn't been 100% fit going into the beginning of the season. And that's why you saw Trossard play a little bit more of a bigger part. Trossard now has got 15 goals this season.
Yeah,
So, that's
and
what
he turns
Martinelli
up
had.
in big
He's a
moments as well.
big time player, yeah. So it's got a little bit to do with that. But I think when you look at the beginning of the season, and I've said this to all Arsenal fans, and just to make you aware of this, there's two things that this team was sort of carrying. Number one was the inverted left back. That was how we made our name last season. Last season it was Zinchenko's going to invert, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to put more support in the middle of the park to try and create overloads, and then that's how we're going to dominate teams. And then the other thing was Jesus up top as a number 9. And so those were the two things. The two players from Man City, which you had already talked about, that was what was happening last season. This season, we've gone away from that. And funny enough, the first half of the season, we were really pushing that to a point where fans have realized Jesus isn't the answer at number 9, and Zinchenko is not the best option at left back. And I think what's happened with Martinelli is Martinelli's played, 27, 28 games and only got 6 goals. And Jesus has played.
But a lot of them have been off the bench, though, haven't they?
2 of them were off the bench in 1 game. So if you take that out, as a starter, he hasn't scored that much. He's only delivered 4 goals in 20-odd games. And then Jesus, 27 games and only 4 goals. So that's the reason why both those players are on the bench. They're just not good enough. And they're going through their sort of, as they would like to say, sophomore years at Arsenal, where they just haven't been able to keep up with the performances they've had. And that's okay, that's fine. That's manageable if you have a bench. And that's the reason why Havertz is coming at number 9.
But how old is Martinelli, though?
Martinelli is 22.
He's still only 22. At 19, 20, he was ripping up trees. Yeah, you cannot tell me that at 22, he's had a couple of injuries. You can't tell me he's done at 22. I still think you've got a top player in Martinelli. I'd be quite happy if you left Arsenal, because then he can't do anything for you. But I think you go and see Martinelli go play for another manager who believes in him and puts an arm around him and tells him to go and be himself. I think Martinelli could still be a top player. He's a very good player, honestly.
And I agree with you. The reason for that is because there's a level of development that he still has to have. He is not the complete player. He just isn't.
No.
And that's the
21, 22-year-olds fairly are. I mean, we've got the same with Brennan. We've got the same with Brennan Johnson at Spurs. Yeah. He has been I would think, for a 22-year-old, I think he's done pretty well in his first season for Spurs. That's a big jump from Forest to Spurs. In terms of the level of expectation upon you in the first team, that's a big jump. And
it is.
I think he's done pretty well. He's struggled a bit at times, but on the whole, I think he's done all right for a first season. What we need to see now is that next step up next season. He's got to start really put it on and start really influencing games. But we'll wait and see whether he's got it. But Postecoglou seems to believe in him. So, I think, he's like Martinelli, only 22. He's still young. So I think Brennan Johnson's got a bright future ahead of him as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, as I said, it's really just about the second part of his game. He defends well, he can score goals, but it's the creativity side. It's like when you have the ball at your feet, can you see those streams? Can you see the through balls? Can you set your players up? And Martinelli can't do that. He's not that type of player.
Well, he's not that type of player, is he? He's not.
Yeah. And that's where he has to develop. That's what he needs to develop. Yeah.
But sometimes you just play to a player's strengths. I mean, he used to score goals against all the big sides. I remember last season he scored against Liverpool, he scored against United, Chelsea. He scored goals against top sides. So for a young lad, 2021, he's a good player. But like I say, if you don't want to play him, that's fine. Sorry?
Sorry. I was saying it's just because they've just got more options now. And in the summer, I would expect another attacking winger to come in. We're looking at someone like Rafinha, Pedro Neto, those type of players. I just think there's just going to be more competition. And so, quite frankly, most of the players that we've got now are going to be playing less. And as for the other thing I talked about in terms of the inverted, well, we've at the turn of the year, this year, we decided to just go the double pivot with Jorginho and Declan Rice. And what that did was that saw them win 11 out of 12 games. And the Villa game was funny because you went back to Jesus up front and Zinchenko inverted, which was like, well, bro, that didn't work last year and it didn't work before Christmas. And so
it didn't work against Villa.
And it didn't work against Villa. So that was, for me, and look, managers don't get it right all the time, but that's one of the times when Arteta got it wrong. And it was a bit of a head scratcher for me because I was like, I looked at Arteta, who I'm a big supporter of, and I thought, bro, you were beyond that. And so why did you do it? And maybe there might be an element of Jorginho's tired because he played in the 2 games in the Champions League and on the week, so his legs can't handle it. So there's a little bit
or maybe Arteta had to give them one last chance to make up his mind for good.
Yeah, well, maybe they've blown it.
Yeah, exactly.
They've blown it. So let's come to the predictions now. So predictions wise, I've gone for, it's either going to be 3-2 Arsenal or 2-1 Arsenal for me. The biggest thing for me is, can they stop Spurs from scoring? And I think that they probably could, but so that might change the scoreline. But I think I think they're just too strong at the moment, and they're on top of their game.
Yeah, if I've got my thinking head on, current form, you couldn't go for anything other than an Arsenal victory on current form. However, current form often goes out of the window in a derby match.
In a derby, yeah, I agree.
And also, as I said to you earlier, I sent you those stats. Arsenal have only won Spurs in the Premier League era, 31 years. Arsenal have only won at Spurs 6 times.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's more than what Spurs have won at Arsenal. I know that. But what I'm saying is the away side rarely wins the North London derby.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the North-South East London derby, as I like to call it. But usually it's a draw or the home team prevails in most North London derbies. So I would think a draw is the most likely result, but because we desperately need it to keep our top 4 hopes alive, I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs.
That would be astonishing because you're talking.
Yeah, I know. Given your defensive record this season, it would be astonishing. I just think that there could be. I was there in 2004. I was there that day when we drew 2-2 with you, and you didn't. Everyone says you won the title at White Hart Lane. You didn't.
Yeah,
when that game finished, you had not won the title. We'd stopped you with a second half comeback, got back to 2-2. You were way ahead on goal difference, but it was only the next game the team you were competing against dropped points, and then you won the title without having to play again. But you didn't actually win the title at White Hart Lane.
Only Spurs fans will tell you that. That's a Spurs fans narrative right there. But for us, we'll settle with the fact that we won it at Old Trafford, we won it at Anfield, and we won it at the Lane.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, tomorrow you're going to lose the title at White Hart Lane.
Well, we'll see what happens. So you're going for you're going for a 3-2 Spurs win.
Yeah, I think my realistic prediction is 2-2, but being a Spurs fan, I'm going 3-2 Spurs. I think it could be an entertaining game.
I think it will be, but the problem with you is that you need to. I know the defense is the best defense in the league, but it's that midfield. You got to get past that midfield, man. Losing Udogie is going to massively affect our attacking play because Udogie creates a lot down the left-hand side, and that's going to be a big problem for us. How we replace that his incursions into the other team's defensive third, but I just feel that the lads know what the importance of tomorrow is. Yeah, I can see you smiling, Nick.
and I think for our own reasons, for us to finish in the top 4, we need to. I think if we don't win tomorrow, we can forget top 4. Yeah. So I think for our own reasons, we need to win tomorrow. Obviously, the added bonus will be to spike your title charge. So that would obviously be an added bonus. But I'm more
Yeah.
concerned with us than I am about you.
Yeah, I think for me, my dream would be to go there and shut them out, which we've done so many times away from home, and obviously for that three-man midfield of Partey, Rice, and Odegaard to continue to shine. Because, like I said, I've looked at it. I've looked at it on paper. I've looked at the way Liverpool we played them, City, and I just that three-man midfield. I think they're the best in the league, and so it's a challenge for. I want to see how Spurs deal with that. That's what I
I
want to
think
see. And if you,
I think Rodri, De Bruyne, and Silva and Foden might have something to say about that. But
oh yeah,
anyway,
yeah, and that's a fair shout. And Drew would probably tell you, no, I think City's the best midfield, but I just think we haven't had a chance to see these guys play at the top of their level. But from what we've already seen from them, they're just at the beginning of their journey. And Party man adds so much.
for
And the thing
for
is,
the first for the first 10 games of the season, we had the best midfield in the league.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's
Unfortunately,
happened to
it
Madison?
didn't concede, didn't
What's
continue.
happened to Madison? Madison's gone into a hole, hasn't he?
Well, Madison got injured in that game against Chelsea.
Yeah.
2-3, uh, 2-3 months out, and since he's come back, has done very little. I think he's been irritated a few times that Postecoglou's taking him off after an hour, 65 minutes. Yeah, I've seen that. Tony loves to little stir the cauldron a little bit.
No, it's important
yeah,
because again, you're going for top four. Your aim this season is to get that place at Villa's.
realistically, I think we have maybe blown top four. Realistically, but it is still alive. I think tonight's game between Villa and Chelsea could be crucial.
Yeah.
If Villa beat Chelsea tonight and go 9 points clear, even though we'll have 3 games in hand, the likelihood that we're going to win 3 games on the spin against we've got Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool in the next 7 days.
Yeah,
I mean, Arsenal at home, Chelsea away Thursday, and Liverpool away next Sunday.
And then Man United and Man City after that.
Man City the week after that. But we've also got Burnley and Sheffield United. So, we will get some points, I'm sure. But I think if Villa were to win tonight, I think that will end it, really, realistically for us. If Chelsea could get something at Villa tonight, either a draw or a win, and then we could beat you tomorrow, then we're banging it. We're still banging it. But there's a lot to do. Realistically, I don't see us beating Liverpool at Anfield. We could maybe get a draw, but I don't see us winning. Chelsea away, well, who knows what Chelsea's going to turn up? Is it going to be the team that beat Everton 6-0 or the team that lost to Arsenal 5-0? You don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up.
Yeah,
but we've got a shocking record at Stamford Bridge, and we've got a shocking record at Anfield. So, we're not likely to get too many points from those 2 games, and that could end our top 4 bid. But realistically, as long as we beat you tomorrow, I'll live with whatever happens afterwards.
Yeah, and for me, you've got a great record at the Etihad, 4 wins in the last 6 games there.
Yeah, but we're at home to City.
Ah, okay, so that's even better.
Yeah, City come to us on the last Tuesday.
Yeah,
we've got Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool this week, and then the following week we've got Burnley, City, and home, both of them at home, and then Sheffield United away on the last day. If we're still in it on the last day, then we've got a massive chance.
Yeah, I think for me, we're going to go in and put a performance at Tottenham like we did last year when we won 2-0.
Well, okay, yeah, you did, and we were very poor that day.
Yeah,
I would hope that because that was the downhill
Harry
bit of
Kane.
Conte.
Harry Kane, that was where you kind of knew. I think he only had 10 touches in the box in that game, and that's when you kind of knew, this is it. He wants to go.
But it was also the end of Conte, the beginning of the end for Conte. The players had stopped playing for him, and it was all a bit toxic. And I think that the atmosphere around Tottenham now is a lot better. And I don't think you'll beat us 2-0 tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to score. And I'm also sure you're not going to win.
Excellent.
So we'll wait and see.
So we definitely will. Andy, thank you for joining us. It was fun.
No problem, dude.
Doing the previews with you. We're going to be tomorrow. We're going to be streaming the game. So, and I'm in Birmingham tomorrow as well. I'm actually at a party, so it will probably be Tony doing the mainstream with everybody. So we'll see you then tomorrow, guys. Andy, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And
No
let me
problem.
know let me know, guys. I'll do a poll for the game afterwards now on the site, and you guys can tell me who you think's going to win. All the best,
May the
guys.
best
Thanks,
team
Andy.
win. See you
Definitely.
later.
Nice one, mate.